Hi friends, Caitlin here with Sass and Stitch Crochet, and today I'll be walking you through a tutorial for the Sylvie Trivet. This is a double thick crochet pot holder, and this will really protect your hands in the kitchen and your countertops. I love making double thick trivets. This uses my favorite stitch, the Alpine Stitch, and it just creates such a gorgeous, dense texture here. You can make this to any size you'd like, and I'll be walking you through how to do that in this video here. But if you want more specific yardage sizing recommendations, you can check out the blog post down in the description box below. So let's go ahead and get started. So this pattern calls for worsted weight cotton yarn. I'm going to be using Dishy Cotton by We Crochet. It is my go-to cotton yarn for any type of homeware item. And they have tons of colors. The affiliate link is linked down in the description box below. And you should be able to make a small or medium size with just one skein. You'll also need a 4mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and a flexible tape measure. And just to quickly walk you through the construction of this trivet, we're going to be starting with a starting chain. Then we'll be working a round of stitches all the way around that starting chain. And then we'll be just continuing to work rounds all the way up our work until we reach our desired height. Then at that point, we will sew up the top so that it's completely closed. So while you're working, you'll be working with a shape that kind of looks like this, kind of Mobius, but then once you're done, you can lay it flat and we'll sew up the top. So we'll be starting with a slip knot and a starting chain. If you're unfamiliar with these two skills, you can find my How to Crochet for Absolute Beginners video down in the description box below. But otherwise, I've gotten started with my slip knot, and I can put in my hook to begin my starting chain. Now what you're going to be doing is making a starting chain up until you reach your desired width for your hot pad. So this is where your tape measure is going to come into play. For a small size, I recommend about 6.5 inches, medium size 7.5, and large size about 8.5 inches. That's what you're going to be chaining to. So again, you can chain to any length you want to. For this one I'm making here, I'm going to chain until I reach 6.5 inches. So to make a starting chain, you will yarn over and pull that through the loop on your hook. That's one chain, and you'll continue chaining until you reach your desired width. So I'm going to chain just a couple more here. And then I will take out my hook and lay it down flat. Now you don't want to stretch your chain. You just want to lay it down without any stretching and then measure. Oh, and I have made it until it's 8 inches long. I'm only aiming for 6.5 here. So I'm going to take out quite a few. Let's see if that does the trick. And there we go. That's about 6.5. That's good. Now before we move on, I do recommend counting your chains just so you have an idea of how many chains you have. This is going to help you once you've worked the first round. You'll want to confirm that you've put all the stitches in this work that you need to. So it's just a good idea to go ahead and get a quick head count just to keep in your brain for how many chains you have. I have 23 chains, so I'm just going to keep that note in my mind. And we can get started working round 1. Now before we actually get started with the stitches, you do want to do an additional 2 more chains. So 1, 2. You'll do 2 chains no matter how long you've crocheted your starting chain. Okay, so then we're going to be starting with a double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. So right here, this is the 1st chain, 2nd chain, 3rd chain. We're going to be working a double crochet. To make a double crochet, you'll yarn over, insert into that 3rd chain from the hook. So we have 3 loops on our hook. Now we'll yarn over and pull through the 1st loop. Yarn over and pull through the next 2 loops. Yarn over again and pull through the next 2 loops. That's a double crochet. Let's walk through that together one more time. Yarn over, insert into the next chain. Yarn over and pull through 1. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. You'll continue to work double crochets all the way to the end of your starting chain. just 1 double crochet into each chain across. Go ahead and work on that, and I will meet you back at the end of it. If you are new to double crochet and you want more of a walkthrough guide, I have a how to double crochet video linked in the bio. Okay, I've worked all the way across my row, and I have 1 more chain left to work into right at the end here. So I'll do 1 more double crochet. And there we've worked around the first side of the chain. Now we're going to be rotating to the end of the work, and we'll be working along the other side of the chain. So starting out first, I want you to place 1 more double crochet right at the very end, right there, in that last chain that you just worked into. This is going to help us round the curve to the other side of the chain. And now we can so this is how it looked when we worked our first row. We're going to completely rotate it all the way around to look at the other side of the chain. So looking at the other side of the chain here, this is the first chain. This is what we're going to work into first. So this is where we did the last stitch, and then that extra stitch at the end that we just did, we're going to work into it once again coming from the other side here. So do another double crochet right in that last chain there. And then we're going to just continue on working. Here's what it looks like on the opposite side of the chain. This is what you're going to work into right here, is these gaps at the base of the previous side of double crochets. So you'll work into each of these chains all the way across to the end. So we just worked into this one here on the end. I know it looks a little bit weird, like you're going to have to stretch over, but I promise it'll all work out. And yeah, we're going to do the same thing, just 1 double crochet into each of these chains all the way across to the end. Okay, so I'm nearing the end of this side here. I have 2 more stitches left to work. So if we kind of rotate back to where we originally started working, we have that starting chain 2, and we have this first double crochet over here. The base of that double crochet is where we're going to end off. So not the chain 2 right there, the last double crochet. So we've got 2 more double crochet left to work here. 1 and 2. Now we're going to be working 1 more double crochet in that last chain. Kind of the same thing of what we did on this side. We want to put 1 more double crochet right on the end. So work another double crochet into that last chain there. And now at this point, you could count your stitches to confirm that you've put all the right stitches in all the right places. So your starting chain, it's going to be double that original number of your starting chain plus 2 more. So my starting chain was 23, so double that would be 46, plus 2 would be 48. So I'm going to go around and count my stitches, not counting that chain 2, just count all the regular stitches, and I'm going to make sure that I have 48 stitches. And I do, so that means I'm good to go. So typically, if you've ever worked in a round before, you might be used to joining the round and then working again in the opposite direction. Like we would turn our work and go around the other way. But in this case, we are not going to be joining and we are not going to be turning. All of our rounds are going to be worked in the same direction, kind of like in a spiral. So I'm just going to get my hook inserted back in here. And the instructions that I'm about to give you are what we're going to continue doing for the entire rest of the pattern up until the last row. But these round 2 instructions are going to be what actually creates this Alpine stitch texture, which is what you see on the finished trivet over here, this nice raised texture. So this is what we're going to be starting now. So we weren't counting the chain 2 as a stitch, but right now we are going to use it as a stitch. It has a very important purpose right now. We're going to be starting with a front post double crochet. So start with a yarn over, And what we want to do is we want to work around this starting chain 2, not into the top like you normally would. We're going to insert our hook right behind the starting chain 2 and come out on the other side. So your hook should be sticking out right in between the chain 2 and the next double crochet right there, right in that space between. Okay, now you're going to yarn over and pull through that chain 2. So just like pull that chain 2 off your hook as if you were pulling through 1 in a regular double crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. Next, we're going to be working into this double crochet right here, into the top of it this time. We're just going to work a regular double crochet into the top of this stitch. Into the next stitch, which this is going to be a little bit awkward in the first beginning steps until we've established what the shape of our work is going to look like. So just bear with me for a moment. Your stitches seem like they're going to have to kind of stretch a little bit. But so this double crochet that we just worked lines up with this double crochet. So now in the next one here, we need to work another front post double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook right before that double crochet in that space between, and go behind it and come up right after that double crochet. So that double crochet is just kind of resting on your hook. Again, I'll show you that one more time. We're going to go right behind it so it just sits on our hook as if it were a loop. Yarn over and pull through that stitch just like your pull through 1 usually. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. So a front post is like any other double crochet, it's just worked around the post instead of into the top of the stitch. Now we're going to work a regular double crochet into the next stitch. And we're going to continue alternating like that all the way across our work. So we're doing a front post and then a regular. This regular lines up with this double crochet right here. So next we do a front post in the next double crochet. Remember, around the post of the stitch, not in the top. And now working a regular double crochet into the top of the next stitch. One more time, front post double crochet. And in the next stitch, a regular double crochet. So continue working this all the way down. I will meet you back when we get around to the next curve, and I will help you get around that because it can be a little bit confusing sometimes. Okay, I've just worked across the first side. You can really see this stitch texture starting to form. It's going to be so pretty. Okay, so I just worked a double crochet. So next I have a front post double crochet to work. Okay, and in the next stitch I have a regular double crochet. And then this is where we kind of have to start stretching around this curve because we're making an envelope and not a growing circle. Our stitches kind of have to stretch here around these corners for the first couple of rows. So I'm doing a front post double crochet. Make sure you're watching this loop as you are stretching around that curve. Your loops can get a little bit looser on accident, so make sure you keep your tension tight. So I just worked my front post double crochet into this stitch here. That means this stitch is going to have the double crochet. I know it looks like a really long stretch, but again, we're just still working around this curve here. So just trust the process and continue looking for just the next stitch over. Same with this one. It looks like we kind of have to go pretty far. This is the double crochet right here. So we do our front post double crochet into this stitch. Again, watch your tension. Don't let that loop get too loose there. And you can see if you fold your work in half, you can already kind of see this envelope starting to form. So this is what we are working with here. So now you'll just continue on repeating your double crochet. We did a front post here, so we're doing our double crochet and then our front post double crochet. So continue working across this side, and then I will meet you back towards the end of this round. Okay, I've worked my way around here, and now I'm almost out of stitches to where I'm approaching the stitches that I've already worked into over here. I just ended on a front post double crochet, so now I have a double crochet to work into. I still have a couple stitches to work around this curve. Okay, and the next one, this is the last stitch to work into before getting to the stitches that I've already worked into on this round. So this was the last stitch I just worked. And this one here is the first one that we started with when we started this round 2. And it's going to look a little funky for a moment here, but just trust the process, I promise. What we're going to be doing is just continuing around this whole round in the same direction. We're going to be continuing to repeat the double crochet, front post double crochet pattern. We won't be joining the round, we won't be turning. We're just going to be continuing all the way around. So we just ended with a front post double crochet here, so that means the next stitch we're going to be doing a double crochet. And then in the next stitch we'll be doing a front post. This is where we did the double crochet, so this next stitch here is our front post double crochet. And then we have a double crochet. And a front post double crochet. Double crochet in the next one. And I'll pause for a second. What we can see happening here is that our stitches are starting to alternate from the previous row. So these are the front posts down on this row, and the front post on this current row are sitting right between the previous 2 front post double crochets. So you've got 2 front posts here, and then in this current row you have a front post sitting right between. 2 front posts here, a front post sitting right between. So as we continue working, we've got a front post here, so this next stitch is going to be the front post double crochet on this current row. And then we've got a front post here, so we'll work our next front post in the next stitch. And it's just going to continue alternating like that all the way around, so that when you have your finished trivet, these front post stitches are sitting inside of each other, alternating up, so that we have this really nice, dense, raised texture on our trivet. So I'll do a couple more stitches here with you. We've got a front post double crochet and then a double crochet. Front post and a double. And you're simply just going to be repeating front post and double crochet for the most of the rest of your work. You're never going to stop and join rounds. You're never going to turn or chain. We're just going to keep working front post and double, front post and double, around and around and around. Your stitches should always alternate each other. Now, if they start lining up where your front posts are going up in a straight line, that means you've done something wrong and you may have missed a stitch somewhere. I'm going to let you get a couple more rounds in. I'm going to work a few more rounds of just going around and around with front post and double crochet, and I'll show you my progress in just a moment. Before I go, I'll note that we're going to be working this until we've reached almost a square or whatever your desired height is for your project. So you'll just take out your measuring tape and kind of check in on your work every now and then. If I'm aiming for a 6.5 inch square, I want to work until I reach about 6 or 6 1/4 inches, because that last round is going to be something a little bit different. So here right now I'm measuring about 6.5 inches across. So I'm going to continue working these instructions until my height is about 6 or 6¼ inches, just a little bit under what you're aiming for, so that you have room to work one more round at the top. That is different instructions. Okay, so I've worked a few more rounds here, and you can really start to see this Alpine stitch starting to form. But one thing I wanted to point out real quick, if you have been stumbling with kind of the stitch placement of this pattern, I want you to turn towards the inside of your work. And we're going to look at the skipped stitches here. Anytime you have a front post double crochet, you're skipping that stitch behind it, and you're not working into it. So all of those stitches with the front post crochets, the stitch behind it is getting completely skipped. Whereas what you see here, you see these legs, those are your double crochets because you're working directly into that stitch, and then the front post stitches, you're skipping that stitch behind it. So if you're really struggling with your stitch placement and maybe you're putting in too many stitches or you're getting off, just remember to look towards the inside of your work a little bit, and that might help you get back on track. You're always going to be working into one and then skipping one when you do that front post. So hopefully that helps. From this point on, I'm going to go ahead and continue working my trivet until the measurement that we were discussing just a moment ago. I'm going to leave you to work on that too, and we will catch back up together in just a moment. Okay, so I have worked quite a ways further up my work. I'm going to do a quick measurement. I'm sitting at almost 6½ across, and my height is just over 6 inches tall. I had worked one more row, but that put me over 6½ inches already, and I want to come in right under 6½ inches because we need to have room to work one more row before we reach a square. So once you reach that height, make sure that you are ending on one of the sides. So it looks like I've got one more stitch left to work here to get right onto that side. Okay, so now that I'm on the very side, I've ended with a front post double crochet. It doesn't really matter which one you end with. You can end on a front post stitch if you'd like to. And now we're going to do something slightly different for the last round. So just ending with a front post stitch. In the next stitch, I'm going to work a single crochet. So just insert, yarn over, pull through 1, and yarn over, pull through 2. Now in the next stitch, I'm going to work a front post single crochet. So same kind of concept as the front post doubles. We just insert behind and around that stitch and work a single crochet. Single crochet in the next stitch, and front post single crochet in the next stitch. You'll continue alternating this pattern all the way around this last round, alternating between single crochet and front post single crochet until you get back to this side that you started on. Doing this shorter row at the end here is just going to help us complete this stitch. So again, continue working all the way around until you get back to the side that you just started on. So I'm almost all the way back around to where I started. This is my first single crochet right here. So I have a few more stitches left to work into. I'm going to work this stitch pattern until I have one stitch remaining that I have not worked into on this round. So I've got a single crochet to work next, and then I have a front post single crochet to work. And now I have one stitch left. So this is my starting single crochet, and this is the last stitch not worked into yet. I'm going to pause when I have this last stitch, and instead I'm going to do a slip stitch into this last stitch. So insert, yarn over, and pull through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. This is just going to help us close off that round to a semi-even level on both sides. Okay, and there you have it. Those are all of the rounds for our work, and now we just need to close off our trivet. We're going to do a chain 1, and before you cut off your tail, you want to hold your tail across the width of your work, just like so. We're going to measure out 2.5 times the length of our width. So this is 1, this is 2 times the length, and another half time. That's where we want to cut our yarn off so that we have enough to sew up the top. So you can go ahead and pull out that loop so you just have a tail to work with. Bring over your yarn needle and you can go ahead and thread that through. You can tie a knot if you want to. And because I'm right-handed, I'm going to move my starting side to my right side. That's just easier for me. And now we're going to be working the whip stitch to sew the top of our trivet shut. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert our yarn needle through the first set of stitches all the way up by the start of our tail here. And then we're going to pull that yarn needle all the way through. You want to pull it decently tight. Now we're going to come back around to this front side and go through the next set of stitches. And pull your needle all the way through. We're always going to enter from the same side and leave on the same side. So you will always want to come back over the top of your work to reinsert your hook, reinsert your yarn needle into the next set of stitches. So you're just tracking along across the top of your work, locating the next 2 stitches over, and pulling your tail with each stitch that you make. So continue working this all the way across and I will meet you back near the end. Okay, almost near the end, I'm working the last obvious set of stitches here, and then this isn't necessarily an obvious set of stitches, but I'm going to work right here through the very end to help close up this little hole here. And that should just about do it. So now all that's left to do is you can just go straight into weaving in this end. Don't run it just through the middle of your trivet. You want to pick up some of these loops through the stitches, preferably ones that are a little bit tighter, and this will help keep your ends secure. Okay, and then once you're satisfied with how much you have woven in, you can just take your scissors and cut it right at the base there. And there you have it. If you have an end not woven in from the bottom yet, you can go ahead and work that now as well. But that is the Sylvie Trivet. I hope you enjoyed working on this as much as I do. This Alpine Stitch pattern is really addicting, and it's just easy to get a little bit mindless, working around and around. I love it so much. Excuse my zooming here. It's just such a luxurious thick texture, and it will definitely protect your hands and your cookware in your kitchen. If you liked this tutorial, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment with your favorite part about the Alpine Stitch, and let me know what you might want to see the Alpine Stitch used for in another pattern. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it so much. I hope you guys have a great day.